Happy Monday. We're back. The start of yet another VTTV. Hang on, no. That's supposed to be Marco there.
It's supposed to be me.
There we go. Well, you can see Dave Dawn's with us tonight as well.
Yes, I do apologise. I just opened the live page and it came on. Sorry.
I don't know. Marco, where are you?
I'm here.
I feel all alone.
At all.
Right, we've got a lot coming up tonight again, haven't we?
Loads.
Loads.
Yeah, loads.
We've lots of tanks and rebuilds tonight, actually. It's a bit of a rebuild fest. We didn't plan that, but it's what's happened. Anyway, enough of us prattling on about what's coming up. Let's just have a look at the trailer instead.
Coming up tonight on Vaping TV, Dimitris Agafiotis takes a look at the Digirette, which is a closed vapor system using pods. Matt Gerrish looked at the RBA deck for the Rafale, and Marco looked at the RBA deck for the Uwell Crown. Which one will be better? Dave Kitson gives us his initial thoughts on his winning selection from the tanks last week, and we've got the news from around the world. All this and more tonight on Vaping TV.
There we go. We've got Dave Kitson as well. He's with us.
There is a mute button, gentlemen.
Oh, good God.
Is there? I didn't know that. Oh,
yeah. Right, we got a bit of a single news piece this evening, haven't we? It's a bit got a BBC now. Something's going on. Whip It Up 69 was just mentioning in chat what's happening in Germany. Do you know, Marco, what's going on in Germany?
Well, from what I gather, it's historical. It comes down to a historical case. So we'll look at that a bit further. It's a little bit late to get into it tonight, unfortunately. But from what we gather, it's to do with a historical case.
Okay. Right, before we go on, I would just like to point out we're suffering from very high winds here in South Wales, so I'm hoping the stream stays up tonight. And so fingers crossed.
Yes, and I'm coming in via 4G.
He's coming via 4G, so expect lip sync problems at some point, because it always happens. We'll see. We shall see. We're having a bit of a test, so you guys watching are a bit of a guinea pig tonight. Anyway, let's crack on with this news piece, shall we?
Yes.
Oh, hang on. News trailer first.
You may have seen headlines like this in recent weeks.
Vaping, how e-cigarettes could be holding you back from quitting smoking.
E-cigarettes won't help you quit. Smokers using vapors are 28% less likely to ditch traditional cigarettes.
Not good news if you were hoping to use e-cigarettes to help you give up smoking, but this comes just a week or so after one brand of e-cigarettes was approved as an aid to stop people smoking by the UK medicine regulator. That's the first step to becoming available on prescription. So what's going on? Well, more or less his Wesley Stevenson has been looking into this. Hello, Wes.
Hello.
Now, this study, what do we know about it?
Well, it was published in one of the Lancet spin-off journals, the Lancet Respiratory Medicine.
That's a well-respected journal, yeah?
It is, that's right, and it's a meta-analysis. That means that the authors reviewed all of the recent academic literature to see what effect e-cigarettes had on people quitting smoking. So they sifted out all the sketchier papers, the ones that didn't have control groups, for example, and then they put the rest together to draw their conclusions. The lead author was Professor Stanton Glantz from the Centre for Tobacco Control Research and Education at the University of California.
What we found was that smokers who use e-cigarettes are much less likely to quit smoking than smokers who don't use e-cigarettes. The odds of having quit if you're a smoker using e-cigarettes is about 28% lower than if smokers who don't use e-cigarettes. And so while e-cigarettes are heavily promoted and used to help people quit smoking, they not only don't help them quit, they actually hurt.
Very clear then. If you want to quit smoking, e-cigarettes are only going to get in the way. And Stanton Glantz and his colleagues looked only at the best research, and then they published their review in a respected journal. So why are you still sitting here, Wes? Case closed, surely.
Well, the reason I'm still sitting here, Tim, is because this study has attracted an unusual amount of criticism. For example, from Professor Linda Bold. She's Deputy Director of the UK Centre for Tobacco and Alcohol Studies at the University of Stirling.
Someone has said if you put garbage in, you get garbage out, sometimes when you do a meta-analysis. We're too early in this field, actually, to rely on these very variable studies. So I appreciate the authors did their best, but in my view, it's not good enough.
OK, but she's just one critic.
Yes, but there's also Professor Anne McNeil, who's Professor of Tobacco Addiction at King's College London, whose research paper was one of those reviewed in the meta-analysis, and she says the study is not scientific.
Ooh. Anyone else?
Professor Peter Hayek, another eminent academic in this field, who was author of a Cochrane review into the same subject. He described the meta-analysis as grossly misleading, and one of the peer reviewers of the paper also recommended that it not be published.
OK, so what's the problem with it?
The critics think that the papers that underpinned Professor Glantz's meta-analysis aren't really good enough for him to draw his conclusion. There are problems with how use of e-cigarettes is measured, for example, and there's a huge variation in the types of e-cigarettes used in these studies. Some of them give a big nicotine hit, for instance, and others don't. But the big problem is you would probably expect, if you were going to draw a conclusion about how useful e-cigarettes are in helping people quit, then you might look at papers that focused on people who are trying to quit.
Yeah, you might, indeed.
But no, someone else who's criticised this paper is Professor Robert West, and he heads up a team at University College London, researches ways to help people quit smoking. He says that this analysis has mashed together some very different studies.
On the one hand, you have people who specifically use an electronic cigarette as part of an attempt to stop smoking. And there are very few of those studies. But to mix them in with studies where you've got people using an e-cigarette and are not particularly trying to stop smoking is mixing apples and oranges.
So some of the studies specifically look at people who are using e-cigarettes to quit, and they assess how helpful the e-cigarettes are.
Yes, but some of the other studies aren't looking at that at all. They're tracking smokers who use e-cigarettes for whatever reason. For example, because smoking in a bar or an office is illegal and they want to get a nicotine hit without being arrested, for example.
So the studies are following these people and they're asking if they quit, but they weren't necessarily trying to quit.
Exactly. So throw all those studies together with the studies that are examining attempts to quit and you've got a pretty confusing picture.
Professor West said that there are very few studies that look at how useful e-cigarettes are to people who are trying to stop smoking. But those few studies, what do they show?
Out of all the studies in this review, there are only really 3 that look at people trying to quit. But Professor West say they contradict what Professor Stanton Glantz found.
With the studies where people are using an electronic cigarette, specifically in a quit attempt, the evidence is consistent. You have 2 small randomized trials which show almost approximately a 50 to 100% improvement in quit success. And you've got a study that we did, a real-world study with a large number of people, which showed a similar kind of level of improvement.
So e-cigarettes do help people quit, but they're not magic. They only work for people who are actually trying to stop smoking. And that contrasts with what Professor Glantz found in his meta-analysis. Does he actually acknowledge any of these shortcomings?
Now, Professor Glantz does take on board some of these criticisms in his paper, but he says he sticks by his analysis and believes that he has controlled for all of the shortcomings in his paper and concludes that none of them really matter.
And it sounds as though Professor Glantz has a tough job ahead of him convincing his peers.
Yes, I asked all the critical academics whether they thought this paper should have been published, and all of them said no.
So what has the journal said? I mean, surely it has a reputation to protect.
It does, and I spoke to the editor of The Lancet Respiratory Medicine, Emma Granger, and asked her whether she feels that they should have published this paper, especially as even one of the peer reviewers had said it shouldn't be published.
We thought this paper uniquely looked at how they're being used currently in the real world. And it came up with a conclusion that perhaps might be surprising at first glance, that they're not necessarily helping people to quit.
And when I spoke to one of the guys who peer-reviewed it for The Lancet, he recommended it be rejected. There is a problem here with this paper, isn't there?
No, I disagree. I don't think there is a problem with this paper, and part of an editor's role is to judge the reviewer's comments, and if there's a mixture of comments, then that's the editor's role to decide, which comments to balance in their decision-making process.
Oh, that's Dave Kitson. There we are.
It should be me. Yeah. Am I on screen?
You are on screen.
Yes. Now, as you'd have seen towards the end of that piece, a few tweets, and that's what kind of prompted us to pick up the story, because I follow Robert West, as we all do, and I saw his tweets there, and it was basically aimed at the editor of The Lancet, who was the last person you heard in that little piece from Radio 4. And it was basically down to Robert West's unbelievable incredulity, whatever you want to call it, on how a non-medical editor can make the judgments on whether something is actually factually correct or not. So I thought, I had a listen, and I thought, we'll put it on tonight, and then we're going to open the discussion amongst the team. So I think Mr. Dawn had something to say, didn't you, Mr. Dawn?
Me?
Was that a serious question?
Look, I mean, we all know if it comes from glance, it's bullshit. We know that. As vapers, we know that. It would appear now that people that he once would have referred to as colleagues are also aware that if it's coming from glance, it's bullshit. And it would appear that they're less afraid now to stand up and say exactly that, only not quite in those words. If you listen to the underlying tone, shall we say, of what Robert West had to say, he's basically saying, you're a barrel load of stuttering wits, and yes, you should have more sense. And actually, speaking as a one-time editor of a magazine, had I let that slip through, I'd have had to have been in a coma for a fortnight while it all got done. But once I'd discovered it, I'd have had it pulled before it went to print. And if it went to print, I'd have been printing a retraction 4 times as long, quoting all the experts. All it says to me is the editor of The Lancet doesn't deserve the title at all. Over.
Okay.
So you're pretty much on the fence there then, Dave?
Yeah, totally.
What did you make of it, Mr. Kitson?
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was a first-class bit of broadcasting, the way they set it all up, that they gave the position and the support it had received and all the rest of it, and then systematically destroyed glance. It was lovely. It was lovely. The way they sort of took the whole methodology apart. They criticised the Lancet. They made sure they got in the quotes about it should never have been published from people who were involved in the peer review and said it shouldn't be published. I thought Linda Bold was absolutely wonderful, as she always is. But basically, as Dave said, by pointing out what a bunch of wittery it was, without actually using the words. And I think anybody who may have been any academic that was listening to that would have thought, well, that's obviously a crock of shit, that study. Result.
Let's hope we see an awful lot more of it. Let's be right.
I think it was proper journalism on the BBC's part, wasn't it?
You're absolutely right. I mean, they're tuning in to the what's it called? The website where all of the scientists comment on stuff that's coming out, because a lot of scientists and academics and researchers get to see the papers before they're published 2 or 3 days ahead of time. And now there is a website devoted to their comments on it, where it's wrong, right, or whatever. And it's yes.
I'd love to see a similar piece. Yeah, I'd love to see a similar piece on the BMJ now.
Oh God, yes.
Wouldn't that be nice? And why not? I thought that was compulsive listening. I'd listen to that, wouldn't you?
Too right, I would. And more to the point, I would like to see some of the alphabet organisations coming out and saying the same sort of thing. When some of this bullshit gets published, and the likes of CR UK sit on their hands and don't say anything, and Ash Scotland, Ash London, Ash Wales sit on their hands and don't say anything but link to the study anyway. It's about time they all had the courage of their convictions and came out and said, yes, we agree, it's bullshit, fuckwittery of the first water.
Yes.
There's a challenge for them.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is, if they actually realised how crap it was, then they just shouldn't link to it at all. And if nobody links to his crap, then either he'll bugger off or he'll start getting his crap right for a change. But the latter, I probably pretty much doubt, to be fair.
The former, I pretty much doubt, to be fair. He's not going to bugger off. He's got a mortgage to pay. He said so in a conference.
and let's be honest, it doesn't matter whether he buggers off or not if nobody's taking him seriously.
Yeah, exactly. If no one takes him seriously, then, that's it, isn't it?
Yeah.
All said and done. But listen, going back to the very top of the show, we mentioned Germany. We do have some more information on that, don't we, Mr. Kitson?
We have little bits. I can tell you what I know, and it's not a huge amount, but I noticed the story sort of breaking mid-afternoon today, and I actually spotted it on a post on UK Vapors, which led me to the Vapors in Power Facebook think tank group. I see Liam's in chat tonight, and he's already hinted at it, but for the benefit of those who are watching this on catch-up, the story was that Germany have banned e-cigarettes, and they'd use some logic to say that the e-liquid is basically an oral... Well, the nicotine's a tobacco product, therefore e-liquid was an orally taken tobacco product, therefore it can't have more than a certain content of PG or VG. Therefore, what this shop were, I think it was seized on import maybe, but they basically said you can't do that. They went to a local sort of regional court, and that it was found that it was illegal, and then it went through to the German High Court, who upheld that verdict. So basically they're saying that e-liquid is actually a tobacco product, doesn't comply with their laws for orally taken tobacco, and therefore is illegal to sell. The bit that didn't get as widely reported as the original headline today was that this is a case that it relates to a specific case which is a couple of years old. So before any talk of the TPD, the law's apparently changed since then. But the ruling today was on something that happened prior to that law change. So in other words, it's not currently illegal to sell e-liquid and e-cigarettes in Germany, but it was at the time that this thing happened. It's still a stupid ruling, but it's not a precedent for anything that happens going forward. That was my understanding. Dave, did you read that any differently?
No, I saw it exactly the same. It's not a precedent-setting ruling, and indeed the Super High Court, I forget what it's called, it's got a proper name in Germany, had overturned anything to do with that anyway and said that it didn't apply. But this was an appeal against a decision that was made on the law as it stood then. It has no application now, as we understand it. So it's a few moment, I think.
Yes, it was sense relief. The information that I got incidentally came from Norbert Azillatron, a VTTV DE presenter.
Yes, and he knows.
He knows his shit. Can I say?
And most other people's as well, it's got to be said.
That's fair comment.
Right then, shall we move on? Probably good a time as any, isn't it? Yes. Marco's been looking at rebuilding a crown, and he's kindly provided a nice little bit of VT for us. So let's sit and watch Marco finagling with some wire.
If you remember, I showed you this, which was the Uwell Crown tank, and I have given it a clean in the ultrasonic, and it's all ready to go, because today we're going to put the RBA unit in it. Yeah. And if you remember, I purchased this and the Crown tank for $28.99 from SR Vapes. Other vendors are, of course, available. This was about $7.99 on its own, but it was £1 cheaper if you bought it with the actual Crown tank, so that's what I did. And as you can see, it comes with a little tiny white screwdriver. So let's crack it open, and I shall show you what you get in the little box. So you get a little baggie of what appears to be organic cotton. You get a couple of spare coils, screws, and also O-rings, which is good in case you need to replace. Like I said, you get your little white screwdriver, thus, and you get the RBA deck itself, which is pre-coiled. Let me zoom in so you can get a better look. And as you can see there, it's pre-coiled. It's quite light actually, doesn't weigh too much, and it's as clean as the tank was. Yeah, I mentioned last week the tank was squeaky clean. This is also squeaky clean. Now this pulls off, it doesn't screw on or screw off. You can see there's quite a thickish O-ring, black O-ring, and there's also 2 tabs. Now if I show that a little bit closer, you'll see here there's a tab, and then there's an associated tab on the bottom of the deck, and it basically pushes on, thus. You'll also see here, there, and one on the other side. That is where your juice is going to be wicking in to your coil. So we'll take that off for a second. Fairly deep there to fit your coil in, and it literally just screws in to the top and the bottom there. I'm just going to put this into the Crown, and we'll see what the resistance on the coil is on here. And I'm going to be using the RX200 like I did last week. So I'll just bring that in, and we'll see what the resistance of the coil is. Now currently I've got it locked, so I'm going to unlock that. And this is coming in at 0.31. So that coil is coming in 0.31. But we're going to change that for a stainless steel one, just because we can. Now I've got an El Cheapo ohms reader here, which I've put it on, and it's coming in here at 0.3. So it's in the kind of ballpark of 0.31. This will just make it a little bit easier to deal with. I'm going to take this coil off, and I've loosened the screws. I have to say, one of these screws was very, very tight on, and I have no reason to understand why. But there you go. And we can just lift that coil out, and there we have our coil, which we can put in the box and use that at a later date. What I have is stainless steel coil, and I must explain. Let's move these out of the way. I'm using this these days to build my coils. It's from Coilmaster, and you get a nice little kit here. You get some wire clippers, some pliers, 2 screwdrivers, one of which is a posi, one is a flat, and 2 pairs of tweezers. The second pair here are ceramic tweezers for heating and adjusting your coils. The other pair of tweezers are somewhere. You get a roll of wire, little insert here that comes out, which I have not taken out, but you can pull it out, and you can then put some batteries in that associated space. Let me get it out for you. Oh, it's like a jigsaw puzzle in reverse. There you go. So that bit comes out, and you can put a couple of 18650 batteries in there. I'll just put this back in. I don't use it for storing batteries. You get an ohms meter, which is about the same as this. A pair of collapsible scissors for cutting your wicks. They just fit in there. And here are your coil winding dies, if you like. Different thicknesses. There's 15 all the way up to 40. This is just a little bobbin of wire that I've put on inside. What's that? NIT 100. That is in there. I got a big bag of these bobbins for a couple of quid from a well-known auction site, and then just wound some wire on so I could keep that in there. And did you get a blue screwdriver? Well, hey. And this one's a little hex screwdriver. So that fits in there. And then you also get your handle, which your little jigs fit in. So you can swap those out. And then you get a corresponding bit that goes the other end. So that's a 35 in there. So you'd use the 35 end of here, wire in, twisty, and then that makes your coil. So that's what I'm using these days. FYI, so I'll get it out of the way. What I've got here is a 316L stainless steel coil, and I'm just going to try that for size, and that fits okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put that in, and here we go. I have my coil there. It's 5 wraps of 316L stainless steel around a 35mm jig, and coming in at 0.56 ohms, so not too bad. All that we need to do now is to get this thing wicked up, and I have some cotton here which I have rolled up into a little tube. I've cut a slice off one of these pads, and then I've taken about a third off thickness wise and then rolled, and that will give me a decent sized tube. So we'll just put that through. We need to make sure there's a decent amount of wicking material for this to wick. So I'm going to do about that much. And the plan is going to feed this back up through the top and then push it down. There are some methods out there where you make a little S like that. I'm going to use another method. So I'm going to poke both sides of this wick up through the top there. Line up those 2 tabs I told you about earlier, which is just there, and then just push that down both sides. There we go. That is now in place. And then with one of the screwdrivers, I'm just going to poke that back down either side. There we go. There you go. It's filling those 2 little juice well sections quite nicely. What I've got here is some cloud vapor juice. It's called Moby. I picked this up from Dave Dawn's house a few weeks ago. When I was there, he gave me a box with some juices in, and there was some left in this bottle. And the description is in French. And my French isn't bad, but it's not brilliant. But what I can get from the description is that it's got clementine. It's the flavours of clementine and apricot. So it actually smells really nice as well. So I have some in a syringe. Da-da-da-da-da. And what I'm going to do is just put a little drop to prime the coil where the juice goes in, and a little bit there, and then some on the coil itself. There we go. So that's the coil primed. Right, so that's back on the base. So what I'm going to do is just I'm going to put that onto the RX200 and just check on there. It's telling me 0.59. I've got this set at 20 watts to start, and it is firing, and there appears to be no hot spots coming up or anything. Smells nice. So top's going on, and then the very top is coming off, and we're going to put some of that juice in here. And that will do for testing purposes. Top is now on, and we'll give it a blast. Because we've already primed the coil, we shouldn't have to wait too long for it. I've got it full open airflow, and I'm going to lock the coil in at 0.58 and just check I am on stainless steel, and we'll take up the starting temperature to 50 watts. There we go. And I've got it set at 440 degrees at the moment. And there we go. I actually don't like the juice. It smells better than it vapes for me. So I might have to give it a clean out and try something else. But I shall let you know. Yes, I shall let you know. So there you go. That's the Crown with the RBA deck in. And as RBA build decks go, not too bad. Pretty much on par with the rest of them out there. The difference being that this one obviously pushes on and pulls off as opposed to screws down, or is held in with a screw as in the sub-tank range, and also the screw down ones on the TFV4. But all in all, not too bad. I just don't particularly like this juice. Produces well, but it smells better than it tastes for me, which is a bit weird. Usually it's the other way around. Anyway, I'll be back soon.
There we go. That was Marco showing his lovely building skills.
Yeah.
So yeah, that coil's still running, is it? How long ago did you build that now?
10 days ago, something like that.
It was lasting 10 days then.
Yeah, I was lasted 10 days. Stainless steel. I might try an NI200 coil in it when I rebuild it next. Like I said in the VT, there's various different ways of the wicking. There's the S-shaped wick you can do. I've also seen someone else cut it down and then put two little squares on the end, because apparently there were some issues with getting a decent wicking through it. But it seems fine. It's picking up the flavour quite nicely. I'm not entirely sure whether it's worth the extra £8. I find the rebuildable section mini and also the TFV4. But like I said, it's only been in for a week or so. So I shall keep on and keep on, keeping on.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, well, you'll see my conclusions later on when you'll see a VT of me rebuilding the this thing, the Rafale. Yeah, like I said, it's a bit of a rebuild fest tonight. So do you still enjoy rebuilding, Mark?
I do, yeah. Hence I bought the Coilmaster little kit thing, which is because I had like little bits everywhere, and then I kept putting them down and forgetting where I'd put them, so I keep it all in the same place. Apart from at that particular point, my tweezers were in the lounge because I'd been building coils earlier on. But yeah, I still quite enjoy it, and all my mods, I use all the RBAs for them. I do have in the sub tank at the minute, I've got a stock coil in only because there was one in the box, so I shoved that in. But the rest of my tanks have all got the RBAs.
I've got to ask, what's that mod you just had there with the sub tank on it?
That's my first RDNA 40.
God, that's seen better days, hasn't it?
Yeah, I've seen better days. I'm thinking about actually rubbing it all down to the metal and then coating it. So maybe I'll do a VT on that.
I've seen that done. Somebody take the finish off and polish it, and it has some character, just like silver, shiny. Look quite nice, actually.
Talking about character, I know we're completely off the beaten path here, but hey, why not? Let's go with it. Do you remember the Vamo?
Yeah.
Yes.
And you guys aren't going to see this, but mine sort of all the chroming came off and exposed the. I don't know what the metal is underneath. I think it's brass. Oh, I'll just show you guys there.
Brass.
Yeah.
Brass. Yeah.
And I quite like the look of it. I mean, I don't use the thing anymore, but I like the
nice patina.
Yeah, it looks well loved, shall we say?
Give it a coat of varnish.
Nah, I'll just leave it to sit there and rot.
It'll sticky then, won't it?
I did actually, and I'm further beaten. I'll go to the beaten track now. I did actually at one point have a stainless steel mod, and I played around with heating it to change the colour.
Oh yeah.
I sat there on the kitchen floor, which my kitchen floor is quarry tiles, so it's very very hard and very very durable. With a blowtorch on this mod, making the thing red hot. If I could find it.
Good job it wasn't carpet tiled then.
Yeah. During the next VT, I might have a little hunt around for it and see if I can find it, because it's kicking around somewhere.
Seeing that, what he actually did was stack two 26-650s in it and put a towel around it.
I tell you what, if I could get 26-650s in there, I could go to the early learning centre and get a round peg in a square hole.
You might want to rephrase that.
Let's play the next bit of VT, Mr. Gage.
Note to self: remember watch what you say in front of him. What's the next bit of VT? Oh, it's Dimitri with his Digirette.
Dimitri.
Yes.
Yay.
There we go. Let's watch Dimitri and his Digirette.
Hello, my fellow vapors. Welcome to another video. Something different today. Something that probably us vapors are not used to. A closed vapor product. This is the Digirette e-vapor system. This is a box mod that uses a pod system with enclosed tanks that you cannot refill. I'm going to give you a little bit of a history on this device. I actually learned about this almost 3 years ago. One of the guys behind this product contacted me and started talking about this idea. So it's been a long time in the making for various reasons: designs, patents, litigation, manufacturing. I met with him last year in China while he was there and finishing up the final design and choosing a manufacturer to OEM it for him. But anyway, long time coming. I met the guy, and it was my belief that he truly cares about smokers and trying to make it easy for people to make the transition. I mean, let's face it. With technology advancing and all these new devices coming out and these screens and the temperature control and the stainless steel and the 316L and the e-scribes, it's just getting more and more difficult to give a device to somebody that's new to start off. And the ego has kind of fallen by the wayside for whatever reason that is. I don't know. I mean, the ego was a great device, I think, and it got a lot of people to quit smoking and transition to vaping. But nonetheless, this is where we're at now in 2016. So he put a lot of thought and design behind creating a device that's very easy to pretty much plug and play. You just open up the device, charge it, put your tank inside, and you start vaping. So I'll do a close-up first, show you everything that comes with it, show you how the pod system works, some of the various flavors. Then we're going to put it all together, and I'm going to come back afterwards and give you my impressions and my thoughts. And one of the biggest faults that this device has. All right, let me have a vape. This is the Digirette e-vapor system. This is the box that it comes in with. We open up the package. A little protective foam here on top. We'll see immediately the device itself, and it does come with a light tobacco 0 milligram cartridge. A lot of cartridges to choose from, a lot of variety of flavors. We'll get to that here in a little bit. Let me go ahead and take this out of the way. I'll take the device out of the way. We'll see what else comes in the package. Here's our user guide. Since the mouthpiece is molded onto the cartridge itself, they offer you these 5 little condoms so you can share your vape with a friend. That's really sweet. We have a wall USB charger and, of course, the USB charging cable itself. Now, what you're going to see here on the charging system, we do have a micro USB there, so we can certainly use this with our own USB chargers as well, too. All right, I want to spend a little bit of time on this manual. Go ahead and put this back in here, because I found a couple of interesting facts inside here that I want to share with you. So it's pretty self-explanatory, really good English. You can tell somebody non-Chinese wrote this. They're actually calling them buddy tips, by the way, not condoms. But I don't know, condoms is more funny. We'll get to the flavor tank here. So let's talk about the device. 5 times on and off, just like you would expect with any other device. Pretty similar in that fashion. This is a constant output, so you're not going to have any variable voltage, any variable wattage. The coils are built between 0.6 and 0.7, so you're going to get that constant power that's firing this coil good. We do have some lighting indicators on the button itself. So when you press the button and it's green, will be between 75 and 100%. When you press the button and it's white, will be between 75 to 25%. Red means that the battery is almost empty, between 10 and 25%. And when it's flashing, that means you cannot use it. So it talks a little bit here about using the device, something that's nice. I think that everybody that's a smoker needs to have kind of an introduction of what to expect. You know, you're going to get dry mouth. You're going to get, how to inhale the vapor. For a device that's geared for the smokers, though, here's my biggest problem, and this is what we're going to talk about when we're vaping it. The Digirette performs best when it is used with direct lung hits. So here we have a device that is clearly geared towards a C-store market to give to a smoker, very easy to use. And for the love of me, I cannot remember one time when I smoked that I lung inhale. And the majority, if not every smoker that I've talked to, mouth to lungs tobacco cigarette smoke. Nobody lung inhales. So right off the bat, we have a device that claims inside its own manual that this is best used for lung inhales. It claims that you can shut off one of the holes with your finger and mouth to lung. Well, we'll go through that a little bit later. But anyway, crackling noise as to be expected. The tank gets a little bit warm if you repeatedly vape on it. That's true as well too. Little tips for usage here in the manual. I think overall the manual is done very well. You do have a website. We can go purchase replacement tanks. And I'm not quite sure the distribution that this is going to be in, but I find it really, really hard to insert this product in a vape shop. A little glossary here about what everything is, and here's the technical specifications of the device. It has a 2,000 milliamp hour battery built in, micro USB charge, 10-second cutoff. It gives you the dimensions. It is very, very light, by the way, extremely light for a device. 5 mil tank capacity for the replacement pods, as I call them. It does have a short circuit protection. And then you see the atomizer heads are built between 0.6 and 0.7 ohm. And then it tells you exactly how much voltage you're going to be getting depending on your battery. As the battery sags, you're never going to be getting the same performance, obviously. And it does have a warranty built in. So there you have it. That is the manual. And the thing that upset me the most, of course, the lung inhales. All right, so here's the device. It's currently off. 5 clicks, it comes on, gives you a little light show, and then when you press it, you can see that the battery comes fully charged within the package. Pretty nice, pretty slick and sexy. Oop, there I am. Look at that. I'm in the reflection. But anyway, yeah, you can see here that it does leave a lot of fingerprints on this plastic-coated outer shell. So let's get to these pods real quick, and we're going to insert one in. They sent me the entire line in 0 and 5. So the milligrams a little bit weird as far as the selection. There's your 0, there's your 5 milligram, and I think there's a 10 milligram as well too. I'm going to try the Lemon Blast. I've tried most of these flavors. Just to give you a little example, we have menthol tobacco, frosty mint, Baker's Dream. I'm assuming that's something like custard, creamy, melon medley, strawberry bliss, which I tried, and then regular tobacco as well too, and light tobacco. All right, so let's open up this little pod and see how we insert it into the device. Which one is this? Lemon Blast 5 milligram? Yep. All right, let's cut this little plastic here on top. Open up the box. And there's our little pod. And you just pop this out. And there's our little capsule. 5 mils of liquid inside there. You'll see it being suspended. And there's your mouthpiece. You'll notice here that we have some plastic plugs. You have to remove all 3 of these before you insert it in the device. You can leave one of these plugs closed if you want to cut down the airflow a little bit, but it does heat up. And again, that's something that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. All right, so we're removing our plugs as instructed. And then the bottom plug, this is where we'll make our connection with the device. And then, very, very simple. You just take it and you just pop it in. That's it. It's done. Plug and play. This is just a little protector for your mouthpiece if you're not using the device. The mouthpiece is a little oval shape there, if you can see. And one thing I noticed when I was trying another flavor, as soon as I put it in and I started vaping, I did get a little bit of a dry, burnt hit. So now that I've got it open, I'm just going to pull on it a couple times, try to get that little wick saturated down there on the bottom, and then we're going to begin vaping. The Digirette. All right, all set up here with my Digirette. God, I made a mess every time. All right, Lemon Blast 5 milligram. I've tried some of the flavors in there. Keep in mind, taste is subjective, so I'll basically tell you what my opinion of the flavors have been so far. All set up, plug and play, very, very simple to use. As you saw, just put the cartridge inside, turn it on, and hit the button and begin to vape. Obviously, you see very, very impressive vapor for something that's supposed to be sold over the counter like that. Certainly impressive. Three puffs back to back. That little coil can't keep up. You do get a little bit of a dry hit. And the bottom of the tank does get warm. It says inside the instructions, just kind of set it down for a couple minutes, let it cool down, and then come back to it. Lemon Blast, not bad. I like citric vapes, so it's probably one of my favorite in the collection. All right, so where's the ease of use here? You don't like this flavor, or you want to change midway vaping or midday? Simply pop the little tank out, get your other tank, and pop it in. This is the tobacco flavor, light tobacco as they call, and this is something I'm more interested to giving to smokers. Definitely tobacco. Not bad. A little sweet aftertaste to it as well. I would like to see one of these cartridges with a net tobacco, which they don't have. I'm assuming both of these are synthetic, the full flavor and the light. Go back to the lemon. Yeah. All right. So where's my issue with this device? Now, like I said before, I personally, when I smoked, I never lung inhaled. I always wanted to take the tobacco smoke and put it in my mouth and then inhale it. That mimics, to me, tobacco cigarette smoking. That's why Cardos worked so good back in the day. I wish we could go back to Cardos. I think they were great to introduce. They had that stiff draw with the air coming from the bottom for a full flavor. You could take that higher nicotine liquid and put it in your mouth and then inhale it, get you that throat hit, that thump that people are looking for when they're smoking. And that's something that you can't mimic with this device. They say inside the instruction manual to cover one of those air holes with your finger if you want to get a tighter draw. This is something that a lot of people, even Chinese manufacturers, are missing. You don't recreate mouth to lung simply by restricting the airflow. That is not the proper way to recreate the mouth to lung draw. There's a lot of pieces that have to come into play. So just by restricting the airflow, you don't mimic the mouth to lung action simply because the vapor will be too hot. You have a 0.6 resistance coil and you're hitting it with power, you're restricting the airflow, and it chokes you. And you definitely can't mouth to lung it. No throat hit whatsoever, and you can see it's just a muggy, not enjoyable vape. This definitely performs better when you lung inhale it. A little bit of a dry hit when you pull on it too long. If you pull on it like a vapor, you get a little bit of a dry hit there because I don't think that the little coil can keep up with it. But obviously for somebody that's a smoker that's going to be taking shorter pulls, I don't think that's going to be an issue. I really think that we missed a great opportunity here because this is a great idea. Even when I talked to this gentleman in China and he was going through the motions of the idea behind this device, I thought it was a brilliant idea. Something we can put in a C-store. It's going to be inexpensive. Somebody can pick it up and get a satisfying vape. But we went where? To lung inhale. When the hell did lung inhale become the standard for helping people quit smoking? So I think we missed a great opportunity. I'd like to see this in two versions, maybe the smoker version, maybe an advanced version coming after it, not the advanced user version coming out first, and then trying to scramble and trying to see what we're going to do with the smokers. 5 mil tank. Sorry, you can't use it because based on your regulations, you're only allowed to have 2 mil tanks. So I don't know if there's a 2 mil tank version coming out in the future, but you definitely can't use this. All right, let's get some final thoughts. All right, let's take a look at some pricing here. According to the Digirette site, $49.95 for the kit. Comes in 4 colors: orange, white, black, and blue. And then we have a choice of 10 flavors, replacement cartridges, and the cartridges are $6.99 each for 5 mils of liquid, putting it a little bit over $1 and some change per meal. Strawberry Bliss, menthol tobacco, frosty mint, lemon blast, hot cinnamon, melon medley, vanilla cream, baker's dream, full tobacco, and light tobacco are your flavor choices. It says it's USA made premium e-liquid. No word of where it comes from and who is the one that's actually manufacturing it. So $50 for the device. Again, price range, I think this is too expensive. In fact, my idea for this device would have been what RJR is doing. RJR is giving away the hardware here with the review system, and you buy the refill packages. And that's why they kind of took over the market here in the cig-alike category. They've crushed everybody else. Can you imagine being able to give this to a smoker for free, the device, and then put them on a subscription for the cartridges, or even have them just purchase the cartridges afterwards? I think that would have made more sense. How do you get a smoker to spend a little over a carton of cigarettes? I mean, some of the carton of cigarettes are between $45 and $55 for the device, and then ask them to pay $7 for each additional cartridge, which, by the way, here, according to the website, says it will last between 1 and 3 days, depending on the usage. The milligrams are only available 0 and 5, by the way. I thought there was a higher nicotine content. So again, without high nicotine content liquid, how do you expect somebody to go 3 days with a 0 milligram or 5 milligram liquid? If you got a smoker that want to transition, they need that high nicotine content. They need to be satisfied in order to stay away from cigarettes. So for a C-store, I mean, I think that the price is expensive. I think it's going to be hard for a distribution of this to be mainstream to get in a lot of stores, and expect somebody to make an impulse buy at a store for $50 plus spend, you know, between 7 and 14 or 21 bucks to pick up 2 or 3 different flavored cartridges. Performance of it as a vapor, I think it works great. I think it would have done much better if it had a higher resistance coil inside there, some higher milligram nicotine, and the availability of maybe an adjustable flow ring on this plastic tank where somebody could actually mouth to lung it. So that's what I had for the Digirette. I had high hopes for this coming out, anticipating it for 3 years to come out. And unfortunately, it's going to be very, very difficult for me to recommend it. Keep in mind one more thing. Vape shops. I heard some rumors, some chatter on Facebook when I first posted a picture of this. A vape shop's going to carry it. Again, I find it very hard for a vape shop to bring in a device like that. So you're asking somebody to pay $50 for this device at a vape shop, when they can get a 120-watt device next to it for probably under $50 now. And then you expect them to come into the store and purchase $6.99 for one of these pods, and at the same time there's a customer right next to them paying $8 for a 30 ml bottle of e-liquid that they can refill in their tank. Yes, I know we're going for 2 different population reach. Okay, you're trying to reach somebody that doesn't want to mess around with the refillables and all that. That's fine, I get it. That person, though, most likely will not go into a vape shop and buy anything, right? If you're looking for that demographic, the people that don't want that mess and the fuss and they want the plug and play, those people most likely will not be customers at vape shops. So keep that in mind as well, too. Great idea, performs great. I think, again, we're missing the point here of trying to reach more smokers, and we did have the opportunity with this. So that's my thoughts on the Digirette. I hope you enjoyed the video. For Vapor Trails TV, I am Dimitris, the Vaping Greek.
And there we go, with Dimmy with his strange printer cartridge type thing. I have to examine that a bit more. I'll tell you what, I mean, that was pretty much a mouth-to-lung sort of affair, wasn't it, from what I gathered? You know, I've been vaping for, 3 years now, and I kind of prefer direct lung inhale these days. I don't know about you, Marco. What do you prefer?
Well, Matt, it's funny you should ask the question, because I've been vaping for 3 years and 350 days. I actually swing both ways. Yes, I like to direct to lung mostly, but I do slip in a little bit of mouth to lung on occasion. Yes, but I direct to lung at 12 milligram. I don't bother with this 3 milligram stuff. So yeah, what do you say, Mr. Dawn?
Well, I mostly direct to lung, but then I am a reviewer of sorts. I occasionally mouth to lung, and I've been vaping for very nearly 7 years. Mr. Kitson, what say you?
Well, you know, I'm definitely a direct to lung kind of guy these days. I actually find it hard now to go to mouth to lung, and I've been vaping for nearly 6 years.
Shocking, isn't it?
Right, I can come back to me now. Stop laughing. Oh, good God. Right. During that VT, I had a little fish around. You know, I mentioned about the thing I sat there and burnt with a blowtorch. There it is. Yeah, it's all blue and stuff. There we are. That's it. Nothing else. Are you direct lung inhaling there, Dave? Were you?
Sorry, man.
Was that a direct lung inhale there, Dave?
Who?
Me?
No, the Kitson one. He was on the screen.
Yeah, it's the only kind I know, and I genuinely find it difficult because I do occasionally pick up like you know, sort of an old tank or something, and sometimes like I'll think like I'll close the air holes right down on the sub tank when I'm on the plane and do mouth to lung, because obviously there's a lot less vapor, and it takes me like 30 seconds to a minute or something just to readjust and remember how to do it.
Does take a while to get your tongue in the wave.
I'm gonna try it now. I've got a sub tank here.
Actually, here's a thing. Like I did on last Thursday's show. Try mouth to lunging or direct to lunging with your eyes closed. Tell us which you prefer.
So try both.
Yes.
Eyes closed.
With your eyes closed.
Well, that was mouth to lung, sort of. But it wasn't really right. I took half of it down straight away because I'm just not very coordinated. Definitely direct to lung.
Yes.
Yeah, no, just no question. I mean, these tanks, you get better flavour as well when you direct to lung.
Yeah.
You get the flavour on the exhale that you just don't get with a mouth to lung. But that could just be because of the way these tanks work.
Well, I tell you why I got into it, rather than anything aside from it was accidental, actually. But I was doing an experiment to see whether I could be TPD compliant, because as I think most I was using 54 milligram mouth to lung all the time, and I knew that was going to go. So I thought, well, we'll try this cloud chasing malarkey with the low strength juice and see what happens. And yes, I can get away with it. It's great. But if I go mouth to lung, I've got to go back to something a lot.
Exactly. Because the way I discovered it, and Matt was there, was the guy from the Vapor Shock stand. He filled up the sub tank, the first sub tank I downed on the Vapor Shock DNA 40, and I just mouth to lunged it because that's all I knew how to do, and realised he put 6 milligram in, and I mouth to lunged it. Thought, well, that's absolutely shite. And Matt said, no, get it, open up the air holes, give it a bit of a blast. And I did, and I thought, wow, that's really, really good.
Yeah.
For me, it's just no comparison. But hey, it's a choice, isn't it? Personal preference.
For about half an hour after that experience, all you could see in front of, above Dave was his plume.
Yeah. Oh, it's great fun as well.
He was walking around with a thundercloud around him.
Yes, it was. But you must remember, you must keep your air holes clean.
Pardon?
Hey? What? Did you get black sign on your fingernails if you don't?
Yeah, exactly. That's how we got it, keeping his air hole clean.
Your airways, that's what that's.
I would just like to point out the little black thing on my finger during that last VT was where I dropped a UPS unit on my finger.
Bogey.
Anyway, Matt, I think you've got our next little bit of VT.
Hello.
Have you not?
Oh yeah, it's my turn to fiddle with wire, isn't it? And tools and things.
Are you going to pull your wire, Matt?
I am. I'm going to handle my tool.
He said tool.
I did. Okay, here we go. Hello. Right. Today I'm going to be looking at. I'm not doing a review really of the Rafale tank. I'm looking at specifically the rebuildable section inside. I know Dave Dawn's been mentioning it. If you looked at the Dave Kitson tank challenge we did last week, the Rafale was his pick of the pops, shall we say. Let's have a quick vape. Tastiness. So, okay, what we're going to do, I'll just quickly say what I think of the Rafale. I think it's a very, very good tank, and I think, it's a good successor to the Crown. I'll maybe mention a little bit more when we come back. So let's just crack on with the rebuildable stuff now, because that's very fiddly. Here then we see the VRBA kit, and this is the main part. So you do get, it does come in a little tin with some spare bits, which I'll cover in a moment. What the spare part says, I'm not going to bother to show you the tin. It comes with an instruction manual, but I'm going to try and talk you through this. So this of course is the main VRBA unit itself. Let's just have a quick tour of it. So we can see here that's the your juice wicking sections here, of which there are, I believe, 4 of them. Yes, there are. There is your air intake, of course, and here is a little hole in which we thread a leg of a coil through. So, because this is indeed vertical, hence the V in the VRBA. We have here a little grub screw, which is used to grip the leg, and of course our coil is going to sit in here, so we should do that in a moment. Here we have a circlip. What that does, that sits on top here. That's got 2 functions. One is a retainer for the cotton and the coil itself, and it also acts as your negative connection, so we'll see that in a moment. So of course there is the circlip, and you do get a spare one supplied because the chances are this is going to ping off somewhere at some point. You do, by the way, get some spare grub screws here as well. You get a couple of those because they are really tiny. you get this tiny little Allen key in order to fasten the grub screw, and you get this tool. Now, the way this tool works is, if I tip it on its end, you can see there's a hole there. So you must thread your wire through this hole. And then this is the part you grip. So you grip B here, and you wrap your coil around this section here, and then finishing up on the A. Now if you look closely, you can see there's a groove there. So what you must do is you finish your last coil in that groove, and then if you can just about see these dents on each side, you bring your wire in there and then you pull it out, so it puts like an L in your an L kink in your wire. You'll see that in a moment. It is very fiddly, and I initially tried this with 0.3mm wire. It wasn't pretty. I've since discovered you really need 0.4 or 0.5. I've not tried it with anything thicker than that, but there we go. Now onto my wire then. This is 316 stainless steel, which I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using it in temperature control mode, so I will be wrapping it with gaps. You will of course need a strip of cotton. Now the idea is the strip of cotton should fit around here. Yeah, that sort of height. So save yourself the bother and pre-cut that, which I did for once. I actually pre-prepared. So let's move these tweezers out of the way. Let's move the cotton out of the way because I won't need that quite yet, and let's move the VRBA section out of the way, and let's grab our tool. Now whilst I am gripping my tool firmly betwixt thumb and forefinger, I shall thread through this hole here. There we go. So I shall then grip it with my thumb, and I will put a bend in it like so. Okay, try and get as snug as possible. Now this is the challenge for me, is I've got to wrap this on camera. Wrapping coils on camera is never easy, especially when it's as fiddly as this. But here we go. So as you can see, I'm not going to bother to count the wraps because I'm doing temperature controlled, and you know what, I'll let that worry about it, not me. So at all times keep a nice firm grip on your tool here, because you don't want it slipping out your hand. Right, one last wrap. There we go. Now as you can see, I've got it into that groove there. Now I'm pulling really quite tight here, so as you can see it's at that dent now, and now I'm going to pull it round, and this is where it will go horribly wrong because it could slip and unravel my coil. There we go. So as you can see, I hope you can, there's sort of an L in there. Right, now we must pay attention to a couple of things here. This is the end that's going to go into the base of the VRBA head, so I'm going to give that a clip, and I need to make sure I need a generous length of wire like so. Now it would be nice if I could just pop that in on the tool. No. The instructions don't tell you to do that, so I'm not. By the way, there is a little, this is threaded, so you could actually get a grub screw in there and actually use that to grip your wire, but I find just gripping it with your thumb is just fine. So we now carefully need to remove this coil from the tool. Which is easier said than done because it does like to stay on there. There we go. So out of the way, we don't need that anymore. There is my coil. It's not pretty. It should work though. Now we must remember this is the length that is going to go in the base. So to make my life a little bit easier, I might just trim this ever so I know that the longer lead goes down. Now what we need to do is get our cotton and give it a single full wrap around the coil like so, and then get some scissors and give it a trim. Okay, now I'm going to get my tweezers just to aid there. Now as you can see, I'm going to thread it through that hole there on the right. Do you see that? like so. Then, right, I'm just trying to keep this in shot. Using my tweezers, I'm going to use that to push the coil and the cotton down at the same time. Like so. Now, what we should see here, hopefully, is all the juice holes are nicely covered in cotton. Look at that. Looks alright, doesn't it? Now, getting our little tiny Allen key, and we should insert it into the grub screw. Trying to grip the thing. Right. There we go. So we just tighten that up and nice and snug. Not too much though, because you probably snap the Allen key. There we are. So after we've got that, I get myself some side cutty thingies. I could use nail clippers, I suppose, but I like these because I can get really nice and close. There we go. That's just gone ping. And away it is. So all it remains now is the top. Now this is where Mr. Circlip comes in. Now, what you can do is you can get your tweezers and you can grip like so, but there's a risk of it going ping. So I find that I like to use my thumb for this, because now what you do is you get the this part, apologies, I'm trying to keep this on camera, and that is going to snug up against this wire. But before I do that, I need to make sure that there is indeed some metal for this to actually contact with, because if there's no metal for it to contact, it ain't going to work. What it does basically, it presses the wire up against this wall and therefore forms the negative connection to your mod, and if that is hindered in any way, you know, by some, say, cotton, you're not going to work too well, is it? So there we go. What I must do now is just push this, and this is really going to be a fiddly bugger. If you've got some nails, you can kind of get away with doing this. There we go. Can you see? So there is making contact with the metal wall, and this circlip is quite nice. I'm just going to use this screwdriver, just make sure the airways are nice and clear, because you know we kind of want that to be nice and clear, don't we? There we are. So you can see right down there. That doesn't look half bad, to be honest. I'm quite impressed. I did that on the camera. I'm just going to use some nail clippers just trim this off. There we go. So all it remains now is to prime the coil and put it in our mod. So let's crack on with that. So there we go then. We just saw the rebuildable section. Right. I'm not going to do the close-up of the tank and things, okay? It's a tank. Dave Dawn's covered it quite nicely. So how does the rebuildable section vape? Quite well. As you can see, I've got it on my Rolo. I've got it set at 570 degrees Fahrenheit and a starting temperature of 90 watts. And it's vaping quite nicely. It's in stainless steel mode as well. I have experimented with different coil builds in here. I've tried nickel, I've tried titanium as well. I even tried a Clapton coil. It didn't end pretty. I'll revisit that because whilst the vapour I got off it was superb, I didn't do the cotton quite as well, and that just leaked juice everywhere. So yeah, it was messy. So here's the thing: the rebuildable section is an optional extra, and it's an extra 10 quid. I should have done my homework and actually checked how much the coils were. Hang on. No, I'm not going to do it now because that'll just be sitting around. Actually, no, I will do it and there'll be a jump cut. Okay. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that jump cut. Right, I just had a quick look. It seems the going rate for 4 coils is 10 quid. Now, I've had this tank for a couple of weeks now, and I have used a normal, stock coil, and it's been working very, very, very well. I've not given it an awful lot of use because, of course, I've been evaluating the VRBA as well. So I know Dave Dawn's mentioned that the coils are lasting a decent amount of time because they are stainless steel coils, and as we know, stainless steel doesn't tarnish quite as quickly as camphor. So the life inspection is quite good. So here's the thing. After a quick vape, flavour is very good on this coil, by the way, I have to say. I did a good job with that. Here's the thing. 10 quid will get you a rebuildable kit, but it'll also get you the absolute pain of rebuilding that thing. You've got no idea how many times I've had a fiddle with that tool. It's taken a lot of practice just to even do that on a camera. I was quite surprised it actually worked that time, to be honest with you. So it's very fiddly, and to my mind, the stock coils are at least as good as any coil I've built and put in the VRBA section. Now, okay, I grant you could buy the VRBA section right now, and if they ever stop manufacturing coils for this thing, then you're okay, you're golden, you've got something you can use. There's that. But, and I guarantee you this, you're not going to wind a coil consistently and put it in the VRBA section as consistent, and get a consistent vape as you do with the pre-built coils. So for my mind, spend extra money, just buy the pre-built coils. It'll save you a lot of pain. Hey, feel free. I'm not saying don't buy the VRBA section, because that's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to give you my information and my experiences of it. And yeah, it's a pain to build. It works, and when it does work, it works well. But I don't think it's really worth it over the stock coils. But your mileage may vary. I'm not the world's greatest builder, so I've rambled long enough. There you go. You just take what I've said under advisement. And back to the studio. There we go. That was the very fiddly VRBA thing. It works all right, but frankly, buy the stock coils, I think. Which is kind of what you come to, isn't it, Marco, when you appear on the screen behind me? Because it's Dave Kitson.
Yes, I'm here. Yes, it did look fiddly as arse, didn't it? To coin a phrase, doing that particular build. I wouldn't say that the Crown RBA is that difficult to build. I just think there's a quality issue when it comes to the vape it produces. But then, like I said, I need to try a different build on it and see if that improves. And I shall let you know about that one. But I think for the Crown, and certainly with your experience of the Rafale, that it seems to be the stock coils are better.
They are consistently good, whereas with the rebuildable decks, you're going to have to fiddle around with it until you get it right, and then there's no guarantee you're going to get it right the next time you do one. Frankly, it's got to the point now where stock coils are good. I've not bought a sub-ohming tank now or a direct lung inhaled tank now for a long time. It's actually been crap. They all perform pretty well, and the stock coils have been consistently good. Anyway, speaking of tanks, if you recall the Dave Kitson tank challenge we did last week, he's done a little VT for us, so we're going to play that in now.
Last week on Vapor Trials TV, on Monday night, I challenged Dave Dawn, Matt Gerish and Mark Green, aka Marco van Basten, to recommend to me a new tank. A very quick background. I've been using the Kanga sub tanks with 0.15 ohm pre-made coils. I don't have much time, and it's just so much easier just to whack a pre-made coil in there. So that was one of the stipulations that I made on the tank that they should recommend to me. I also said it must be sub-O, obviously. But the other thing I said was I want it to be top fill, because I've been intrigued by this top fill, because I cannot deny if your tank runs out and you're on the move, it's a pain in the butt. If you're on a train or something, you can do it, but like, you know, it attracts a lot of attention if you start refilling a tank on the train and God forbid on the plane and so on. So Matt recommended to me the new Kanga top tank. Marco went with the Smock TFV4, and Dave Dawn showed me the Uwell Rafale, or Rafale, I think it's Rafale, and that was the one I picked. And if you were watching last week, you will have seen that I picked it because of this nice twiddly adjuster at the top. You basically turn the mouthpiece, which is a drip tip, honest, which opens up two little holes here, allowing you to fill up. Now I'll let you into a secret. This is the third take of filming this VT, so the tank is almost full, because the phone rang twice, would you believe, while I was filming it. But basically you can see that you don't need a surface to put the tank down on, you can just do it. It arrived last Wednesday, sort of mid-morning, and I've used nothing else since. I'm filming this on Monday, so it's 5 days, and I've used pretty much nothing but this tank. So it must be doing something right? It has not been flawless. It has not been a particularly smooth ride for me. I still have a few little issues with it, which don't seem to be widely reported, so whether it's just mine or something I'm doing wrong, I'm trying to find out. But I've swapped notes with Dave and Matt, who are both using these tanks as well, and they're just simply not experiencing the same problems, so I'm persevering at the moment. The biggest single issue I've had with it is it leaks from the bottom. On this camera it might be a little difficult to see, but you've got this adjustable airflow ring at the bottom. Like I say, this is not a review of the product, you've seen the reviews, this is just my opinion and how I've got on with it. What I'm finding is, well, at first I set it all up and everything worked perfectly all day Wednesday. I've refilled it twice because it don't half gobble juice. But on Thursday it had been stood while I slept, and on Thursday morning I tipped it up to do this and juice just flooded down, changed my shirt. So I started messing with it and I got through 3 shirts on Thursday. So I swapped the coil in case there was a problem with the thread and the seal wasn't good. I've started filling it a little below the top level just in case I was overfilling it. It seems to have settled down a bit. In fact, I haven't had any real issues with it. But there, I've been a bit careful. I've been wrapping a bit of tissue paper around the air holes and giving it a quick every now and then. And there's usually some excess comes out. So something's allowing the juice to drop into the little well at the bottom, with a little quicker than it should, in my opinion. It's not a problem I have with the sub tanks. On Saturday I had to do quite a lengthy drive, and I have a habit of standing my mod in the door handle, and it's kind of hard to describe, but it sits there and it can't fall in either direction. And I was driving along at speed and reached for the mod, picked it up, and it had sort of emptied itself on me again. So I haven't totally cured the issue of leaking. That said, it's been good to me since then. I cleaned it up and it's been good to me since then. I think just periodically putting a bit of tissue paper around the bottom, blowing through it, it's fine. Yeah, could be better if I'm honest. The other thing I had an issue with was with different temperature control devices were reading the stainless steel coil differently. So I've got the Wismec rouleau in this hand. I have the Wismec vapor flask. Forget which model it is now. I'm supposed to be reviewing this, so I better find out. In this hand, they're very actually. So it's the same software on the chip basically. This is 150. This is a 200 watt, but it's essentially the same. If you compare the two, you're plain spot the difference. This was interpreting the stainless steel core quite differently to this one. to the point that if I'd have it hitting way too hard on this one on the same settings than this one. I don't think it's connection. They're both new mods. So I swapped some ideas with Matt, and we figured that maybe it was just having a bit difficulty reading the type of stainless that these coils are made from. So actually, we solved the problem by putting it into the custom TCR mode. There's a mode M1, and I've done that on both devices and set the temperature the same, 230 degrees, which is what I like. And it's been fine since. I haven't had a single issue with the temperature control since we put it into custom mode. But the built-in SS mode on both of these mods, he didn't like. It was reading wrong, and so it wasn't absolutely plain sailing. But I have to say that on Thursday of last week, he says leaning forward because he hasn't prepared for this shoot, I also acquired a sub-tank, a Kanga top tank, I'll get this right. Yeah. Now, this, in terms of its design, is slightly less appealing to me because you need 3 hands to fill it up, whereas with the Rafale you don't. But I don't trust this. I'm going on a flight tomorrow night out to Switzerland again, and I don't trust this on the plane. So I'm going to be filling this up during the course of today, and maybe I'll shoot a bit of VT for next week for VTTV and let you know how the two compare, because I've got more confidence in this based on the sub-tanks I've used in the past to not empty themselves on the flight than this currently. But very, very quick summary, because I'll probably overrun my time. I like it, I'm using it, I just don't quite 100% trust it. But thanks lads for your recommendations. It's been fun.
There we go. So that was David's experience with the Rafale thingy-majig raffle. Bit leaky for you, Dave.
Yeah, and it's persisted even to this evening. I think I know where the problem is. As of this evening, you turn the little doobry to open up the holes, but then I've been using this bottle, currently empty, but as you can see, it's got like quite a sort of fine nozzle on it. But it doesn't always go down into the tank.
Do you get it so it comes out the other hole a lot?
I noticed it tonight for the first time because I must have done it excessively, and then it flooded.
Yeah, I find that I have to be quite gentle, and it takes a good couple of minutes to fill the tank up, you know?
It does. And actually, if you look down, there's one side of the hole is better than the other.
Really? You know what? I've not examined that.
Yeah, if you might even need a magnifying glass or something to see it, but like, it's kind of hard to describe. But that if you were looking at it from the top and following it round clockwise, you want to be going at 3 o'clock. If you've got the hole at 3 o'clock, you want to be pointing down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I haven't described that very well, but it made sense to me. And that, so I'm pretty sure that it's been overfilling or not filling properly. But I don't trust it enough to take it on the plane with me tomorrow. So I will, in fact, be taking the top tank.
Which you've not actually used yet?
No, I've took it out the box. Had a little gander at it.
So for all you know, I could have recommended you a donkey.
Yes, quite possibly. In fact, I wouldn't be shocked if you had.
All I can say is you should have gone for the TFV4.
No.
Flip the top, fill it up, flip it back. Job done.
I can be probably trying one of them.
Yeah, leaks like a bitch if you've got the extra air floor ones on.
Yeah, I had leaky problems with mine.
Mine's never leaked. In fact, I've got 2, and I bought another one last week, so I've got 3. So there you go. Top tip.
Oh.
TFV4. Thank you very much.
Marco Free Tanks Van Basten.
Well, if I'm going to be like that, I've got 2 crowns and 1 Rafale, so please.
Yeah, on that note, I think it's bloody. It's 10 o'clock. Look at that. On the nose.
Doesn't it fly?
Doesn't it just? When it's having fun.
It gets late, doesn't it?
Aye.
Mm. Oh, well. That's another show then. So I'm going to say good night. I don't know what these guys are going to say.
I'm going to say goodnight as well. We'll see you next Monday, but obviously we've got a show on Thursday, haven't we, Dave?
Have we? Oh yes, we have. Yes, we have. And there's all kinds lined up. There will be some footage from one David Sweiner. There will, and who I shall be interviewing for next week, not Thursday coming. We will be having a look at the Vapor Flask range, 2 of them. We will be having a look at coils for the TFV4 because Marco loves them so much. So we're featuring that. There's a very, very, very special juice review that you will not want to miss. It's an experimental juice, and I think you'll like it. There's all kinds going on. It's going to be a show you don't want to miss on Thursday on VTTV.
On YouTube. On the internet.
Starting at 8:30.
8:30.
8:30.
At past 8, not 9 frigging clock.
Is that a hint? Right, okay. Ta-da.
Bye.
Bye.